Okay, so let's get into making some petals. I'll do a demo first, and then I'll show you how I will approach this piece of gorgeous glass so you don't mess about with your lovely glass and potentially waste it, but do get clear glass to practice on. So I'm going to cut this standard piece of glass in half, which will give me my 2-inch or my 5 centimetre strip for petal making. So I can do a score down here, and the easiest way, you don't even need running pliers for this. You can do your hands if you want to. If you're concerned you might cut yourself, you can just put anything that's like a pencil or the end of something and just press, and it automatically will break it. I'm sure that sounded really, really loud. So now we need our ruler. So I'm going to be using one that's with centimetres. Oh, it's going to be difficult. Let me just move for a moment. Okay, that's a bit easier to see. I'm going to use centimetres, but you can also use inches. So where I say 5 centimetres, it's the same as 2 inches. So the first thing I'm going to do here, remembering that we want to do lots and lots of petals, so half of 5 is 2.5, or for those who are into inches, it's 1 inch. So I'm going to mark 2.5 centimetre spots all along this edge. So 5, 7.5, 10, 12.5, well, what's that, 15, 17.5, and then we get to 20. And then we flip it over, because we want to come from the same edge here, because we need to make perfect triangles. And then we go the half measure. So here it will be, so here we've got 5, and here we've got 2.5. We want to be in the middle here. So we will do 1 and a little bit. Then we just move the ruler over and do our 2.5, 5, 7.5, and you can see this mark is the in between halfway here. So we're going to get perfect triangles. They're all going to be the same. For people who like things to be the same, this will make you really happy. But what really makes me happy is that you'll have the right number of petals in a circle. Then you can do this part freehand, which will give your petals a little more less factory made looking. So we can then make our triangles this way. So this is looking quite large. If you wanted to do 3 centimetres, then this space here would be 1.5. So now I'm going to get, oops, I can do this last one down here. Now I'm going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 petals from this piece, or 30 petals from your standard piece of glass. How terrific is that? So now we're ready to score all of these lines and to break them off, ready to create the beautiful petals. So I've already scored everything all the way up to here, so I don't have to bore you like mad. I'll see if I can do this with one hand so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to score down that line. So wrists are not playing up today, which is really great. And then you can just break them with your running pliers. Roses are also super easy for these, and you just use whatever it is that is most comfortable for you. There, that's not done too well, that one, because I've probably pressed too hard. As I said, my hands are working quite well today, so I've probably overscored, which means you will get splinters and such on your glass. And there we have all the petals. So you can see from one little piece of glass, we've really maximised all those petals. So lots and lots of them. So you can see, now you can see how that's going to create the lovely petals we saw earlier. So they will fit around in a circle. Now the other thing, when you do a freehand draw sideways for these triangles, is these edges will all be different lengths. But you don't need to worry about that because it is a flower and you're going to be shaping on the top. So you can see how all of those meet the edges and the center really well. And you'll also get a nice sense of movement with your petals because they are all slightly different. So you might want to rearrange them to however it is that you want. And it might be that I didn't even cut the glass straight. There you go. So you can see there's all the petals all ready to rock and roll. Making a lovely circle. So you can see where you can put this little bit in here. If you wanted to do a big circle, then you would just nip all those little points off, which I'll do anyway because it takes all the sharpness. So when you get one of these, we just, as we've discussed in many videos, on how to just nip these off. And I'll just quickly nip one off so you know it's all for real. If I can find, where did I put my little nippers? There they are. So I'm just going to nip off the corners. Which always looks much better in stained glass than it does with this clear glass. And if you have a grinder, then you can use the grinder to make it smooth. Now I don't have a grinder, I have a rubbing stone, which is really great because you can see on here, I've cut it so badly, it's got a really big sharp bit here, which is ready to cut me and add some DNA to this project. Let me just grab my little sanding block. Okay, I've moistened my sanding block, and remember these edges are really sharp. So 2 or 3 rubs on the edges to take the sharpness off and decrease your opportunity to really cut yourself. Now this is a big nasty piece. I suspect there's a flaw in the glass with that one. I'm going to have to seriously get into that one to get rid of it. So across the top, across the bottom, around the top of the edges, and you can make this as smooth as you want. Or leave it a little rough. It's not all flowers have perfectly rounded edges. Some of them have little ruffles. And of course with the points, get rid of the points now. It's much easier now than when you have it poking up in your work and it's going to poke you. So we can get rid of those now. And of course give it a wipe down and it's all ready to go. So you have your gorgeous petals. So now you can see how that easy way to cut petals, you can get heaps out of your little piece of glass, and that's exactly what I did to make this beautiful flower. And if we now return back to the nerdy bit where we talked about measures and how far to go up your circle to get the size or the amount of measure you want for your particular petals. So let's say you decide, I actually want to make a gazillion flowers and I want them to be 3 centimeters in length. So then the width across, using the same method as we did before, is 1.5 centimeters. So let's say you want to do it at 1 inch, then it would be a 1/2 inch. So this would be 1 inch, which is a bit smaller, and a 1/2 inch across. So you get quite a lot of little petals. So here's one I drew up earlier. So if you wanted your gazillions of petals, on that same size piece of glass, so this is 1.5 centimetres across, and each column is 3 centimetres. So out of that you would get 78 petals. That's pretty amazing, and that will save you a heap of glass, and the only bit of wastage is here. So, which wouldn't be, because you would use a strip that's that width. I would be keystoning it and making beautiful curls around my flowers. Also, if you wanted to do great big petals or just have 6 petals, then this example is how it would be for 6 petals if it was 5 centimetres here. So this would be, and this here is 5 centimetres across here. So it's quite large. That flower will be about that big. But you never know, you might want to make these patterns for your tiles. So you would be doing something similar on your tiles or your thicker tiles rather than your glass. If you're making sun patches, then you might want to make beautiful big flowers to stick on a stake and stick it in the garden. You could do glass on glass flowers where your flower would be stuck to a clear piece of glass like this. And really, it's up to you how you want to do all your gorgeous flowers. So I hope you've got a whole bunch of really different ideas, and that you've seen things that aren't different to the usual stuff you get on so many videos are all the same, and about how to just be as creative as you want to be.